Prostitute who was kicked out of the New South Wales police force. Victory today for the former stripper kicked out of the New South Wales Police Academy for not declaring she was once a prostitute. Sydney's Industrial Commission has ruled Kim Hollingsworth was harshly treated and given no time to defend herself.
Now 30, Kim Hollingsworth has been locked in a legal battle with the New South Wales Police Service for more than a year. She emerged triumphant after the State Industrial Commission ruled in her favour. Kim, you must be ecstatic.
I am. I'm delighted with the decision.
It took Kim 8 years to graduate from stripper to prostitute to keen police cadet. A policeman's daughter, she was ejected from the Goulburn Academy for failing to state in her application that she'd worked as a prostitute. But the Commission found she was under no obligation to volunteer that information. Kim Hollingsworth gave evidence that numerous high-ranking officers lined up for sex sessions with her at police strip shows. And the Commission said her activities were known as general gossip. It said she'd been given just over 5 hours to defend herself when she was heavily involved in covert work for the Wood Royal Commission. The decision to get rid of her had been taken long before she got the chance to put her side of the story.
Well, like I said, that's been my dream since I was 6 years old, and corrupt police will not be spoiling that for me.
The Commissioner described the dismissal as harsh, unreasonable and unjust. He directed the parties to have further talks to determine her future. But all Kim Hollingsworth wants is her uniform back. Harry Potter, 10 News.
A major breakthrough in breast cancer research today. American scientists say they've found a molecule believed to trigger the disease.
Each year, breast cancer is killing 2,500 Australian women and 7,000 more discover they have the disease. Now, American researchers saying they've got some good news after a study of 25 women over the past 2.5 years.
And in all those cases, each patient that had primary breast cancer, without exception, had hyperexpression, hyperactivity, and expression of this molecule in those breast cancer.
Simply put, the scientists say they've isolated a molecule called MAP kinase, which they say acts as a switch, controlling the spread of breast cancer.
The level of this, instead of being low as is found in many normal cells, was extremely high. It was excessive, 5 to 20-fold excess of the switch. So now the switch, which is normally turned off and on, is actually turned on persistently.
Doctors will now be able to test for high levels of the molecule in breast cells, possibly allowing for early detection. They're hoping the finding will also help develop new treatments for breast cancer, but other US scientists urge caution.
I mean, there's a lot more work that needs to be done to confirm these results. I'm sure other investigators are going to start looking at this very quickly. Many of us already have been thinking about it.
And there's been some research news from Canada today. A new study has found that a low-fat diet rich in carbohydrates can help lower a major risk factor for breast cancer. Scientists in Ontario and Toronto have found that the density of breast tissue can be reduced by a diet made up of 15% fat and 65% complex carbohydrates. But whether high-fat intake can be directly linked to breast cancer is a theory yet to be established. Michelle Stone in the United States for 10 News.
11 Israeli soldiers have been injured in a firebomb attack on a bus near a Palestinian refugee camp. Earlier, Palestinian police arrested a number of Islamic militants over suicide bombings in the Gaza Strip.
A bus carrying Israeli soldiers through the West Bank crashed this afternoon when it was hit by a petrol bomb. Several Israeli soldiers were badly hurt. Israel's Prime Minister said this crisis will continue until the Palestinians stop violence against Jews. That message will top his agenda when he visits Washington at the weekend.
To get the peace process back on track, we have to stop terrorism. To stop terrorism, the Palestinian Authority has to fulfill its commitment to fight terrorism.
There have been more clashes. They're now going into their third week. Palestinians have told the Americans and whoever else will listen that this is all legitimate protest provoked by Israel. In Nablus, the family of Haitham Mansour, the Palestinian police officer who was killed yesterday by Israeli soldiers, was visited by his commander, who wanted peace but didn't trust Israel.
They come with their vehicles, with their cars, with their guns to people. They are naked here. They don't have nothing. You know, they have what? Stones?
In Gaza, Yasser Arafat is still resisting Israeli demands to crack down on Islamic extremists. Instead, he's trying to keep the pressure on Israel. There's still complete deadlock, and there's bound to be more violence while it continues.
A blind man has had his sight restored in an operation involving use of one of his teeth. The North London man is the first person in Britain to undergo the operation, pioneered in Italy.
Back in November, Bimji Vasani arrived at the Sussex Eye Hospital in Brighton for the first of 2 pioneering operations that would enable him to see for the first time in 2 years. A tooth and piece of jawbone were removed and shaped to replace the damaged outer covering of the eye. A hole was drilled to let the light through and a plastic lens inserted. This artificial cornea was temporarily inserted under the skin of Mr. Vasani's cheek and left for 4 months to allow living tissue to grow over the bone. In the second operation, the cornea was removed from the cheek and stitched in place onto the left eyeball. Still recovering from the operation, Mr. Vasani was keen to see how his grandchildren had grown.
I see now.
And was even able to tell the time.
It's 10 past 3, isn't it?
Surgeons at the Sussex Eye Hospital are delighted by his progress.
Well, in terms of the eye chart, he could see halfway down the chart. And I was walking with him the other day, and he could see our faces for the first time, and he could see out of the window and could see the brickwork and the scaffolding, because there's some rebuilding work going on.
Bimji Vasani can now relish the simple pleasures that most of us take for granted.
After the break, we'll have the one-day cricket from South Africa, and Carlton's Greg Williams considering legal action over that 9-week suspension. The AFL umpire striking saga continues, with Carlton star centre-man Greg Williams considering a legal challenge after being suspended for 9 matches. Williams came into contact with umpire Andrew Coates at the end of Monday's clash against Essendon. Coates says he was urging Williams to leave the ground after a verbal stoush with Essendon's Sean Denham. It's the 8th and most serious suspension of Williams' checkered career. He emerged from the 2-hour hearing declaring his innocence and branding the decision as wrong. Veteran IndyCar driver Scott Pruett has slammed critics of the Gold Coast IndyCar race, but as action got underway on the track this morning, the jousting was verbal, with Pruett asking for a fair go to ensure the event remains on the Gold Coast tourist strip.
At this time, the drivers held centre stage at the traditional media breakfast and didn't hold back. Mark Blundell took a not-so-gentle swipe at his old sport of Formula One, saying it doesn't hold a candle to Indy racing.
There is no racing anymore in Formula One. Kart racing is definitely the best form of motorsport in the world today.
Controversy seems to always accompany this event. Doubts over Sunbelt sponsorship dominated pre-race talk this year. Scott Pruett is sick and tired of it.
It seems like every year we come down here, it's overshadowed by some sort of controversy, which is unfortunate. It takes away from the race, it takes away from the excitement of the race, and it'd be nice to come down here one year and just see, you know, this race for truly what it is.
Veteran driver, owner and safety advisor to the Indy Series, Bobby Rahal, also lavished praise on the Gold Coast Indy for setting a new benchmark.
You know, this is a tough race. It always has been a tough race. Hard on fuel, hard on the brakes, hard on the gearboxes. You name it, it's hard.
The cars finally hit the circuit for the first time today, practice day for the support events, as the fine-tuning is completed for the Indy cars debut on Friday. Bill McDonald, 10 News.
South Africa's taken a 2-1 lead in the best-of-7 one-day cricket series against Australia. The South Africans won by 46 runs after Mark Waugh was unable to bat after injuring his hand fielding.
South Africa put on 52 runs before the fall of the first wicket.
It's gone straight up in the air, and there's a fielder underneath it, and he's got it. And Louis Kuhn is out.
Gillespie then snared Gibbs. It was 2 for 53.
Or Gillespie like that.
But as the game appeared to be swinging the tourist way, Mark Waugh's dropped catch off Callis proved the turning point.
Hurt his finger, little finger on one of his hands.
Waugh was taken to hospital where he received 6 stitches. A direct hit from Blewett ran out Cullinan. It was 3 for 80.
He's still a chance to run out if he hits. Well, he's hit.
Another frustrating day for Shane Warne, though his dismissal of Callis was a gem.
Coming around the wicket, delivery for a start is coming from very wide. He's able to pitch in the bowler's footmarks.
Cronje followed soon after, and South Africa were 5 for 106. From there, Rhodes became the backbone of the innings. He's 83 not out, lifting the score to 8 for 245 off 50 overs.
It's over the fence.
Without Mark Waugh, Greg Blewett opened with Michael Di Venuto, but was soon out for 6. Law then went for 4.
And he has him there. He's edged it.
When Steve Waugh went first ball, the tourists were 3 for 25.
And got him first ball.
There was no addition to the total when Di Venuto was run out for 13. Australia had lost 3 for none in the space of just 4 balls.
So Michael Di Venuto thought there was a run on offering. The South Africans believe they've got another wicket.
Michael Bevan again showed his one-day class. Bevan making 82 off 101 balls. But with the recognised batsman gone and Mark Waugh out of the side, Australia had lost its 9 wickets to be all out by the 45th over. Owen Martin, 10 News.
Time for a quick check of the national weather in just a moment, and scientists celebrating the possibility of life on Jupiter. Let's take a look at the weather now, and if you're in Perth today, expect some thundery showers and a top of 26 degrees. Adelaide, the weather becoming fine, a top of 20. Melbourne and Hobart, a pigeon pair, both expecting showers today and cooler temperatures. Hobart's down to 17, the maximum. Melbourne just 19. Canberra's becoming fine, 22. Sydney, a 27-degree maximum, but a southerly change later. Brisbane and Townsville, fine. 28 for Brisbane, 29 for Townsville. It'll be fine and 35 in Darwin, and a little cooler in the Alice today, down to 28 degrees, but still fine. Scientists have found more signs of life in space. The Galileo space probe has identified carbon and nitrogen on 2 of the moons orbiting Jupiter, both elements of vital components of living things.
Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system, with no fewer than 16 moons round it. For the past 15 months, the Galileo spacecraft has been orbiting the planet and studying 4 of those moons. When it swooped over Ganymede and Callisto, its delicate instruments picked up signs that have all but sent astronomers into orbit. For the 2 moons have revealed far more than expected. Now scientists have detected chemical signals which show that apart from water ice and sulfur dioxide, which they half expected, there are also organic molecules which contain carbon and nitrogen. According to the New Scientist magazine, that could be evidence that the moons may once have harboured primitive life forms.
And that's the morning news for this Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 11:30. I look forward to your company then. Bye for now.